Welcome to How the Song Came to Be, where soulful songwriters share the stories behind their songs, as well as tools and creative practices you can use to bring your best songs or other creative works to life. I'm Anneheaton, your host.
When you start a song, you have sort of a vision for it and you have an excitement about it.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of the fear and the shutting down around songwriting for me is about what if I can't realize that vision?
Hi, welcome to How the Song Came to Be. I'm Anneheaton, and our guest today is Tylan Greenstein. She is a singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist and one of the founding members of the critically acclaimed band Girlyman. She also released her solo debut in 2013, and her current project is called Mouths of Babes. It's a group she founded with her partner Ingrid Elizabeth. They have toured with Dar Williams and the Indigo Girls, and the Huffington Post has said of their music, if I was forced to categorize it, I'd call it modern folk. It's powerful, romantic, and giddy, and the two are insanely infectious together on stage, like a musical and a personal love fest all at once. Welcome to the show, Ty.
Thanks, Anne. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy you're here. For those of you listening, I was just saying to Ty that we have a mutual friend who's also a songwriter, Natalia Zuckerman. And for the past year, she's been saying to me, we got to get together with Ty. We should share songs and give feedback. And I love her. And so I feel like we've been in each other's orbits, but that never happened. So
Totally.
When I was thinking about redoing this podcast, I'm like, I'm definitely asking Ty to do it. So thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. I've been kind of watching you do this podcast for a while, so I'm very honored to be asked onto it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, so I'd love to start out today the way that we always start out, which is, what compelled you to start writing songs? It's kind of a crazy thing to do. So what was sort of the impetus that got you from playing other people's music to making your own?
Yeah, it's a completely crazy thing to do. And I started really young. I was kind of a weird, nerdy kid, and I listened to groups like, the Everly Brothers and Simon and Garfunkel. My dad's a musician.
Okay.
And so he kind of introduced me to all the kind of old school folk music. And
what kind of musician is your dad?
He's pretty versatile. He's an upright bass player, and he plays mostly in bluegrass bands, but he also does like gypsy jazz and all kinds of interesting stuff. But yeah, I grew up listening to like folk harmony groups and bluegrass and stuff like that. I mean, I was like 14 going into bars watching my dad play music.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it was an early intro for me to that world. And I just started to notice really young that the songs that I was hearing really woke up something in me that, the rest of kind of popular culture wasn't getting. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't really working for me. And especially when I started listening to Simon and Garfunkel and, Joni Mitchell and Bob Dylan and people like that who were really, the lyrics were so thoughtful, and it was just stunning to me. I was like, oh my God, they read my diary.
Yeah.
And I just felt, for whatever reason, I just felt like immediately I have to learn how to play the guitar and I need to start writing songs. And so I started playing the guitar when I was 10.
Okay. And
then I wrote my first song when I was 14. And it was for an English class assignment on the book of Mice and Men.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it just kind of like flowed. It was like a really...
Oh, no, you cut out. Wait,
and that was sort of
cut out for a second. You cut out for a second, just in case. So you said it really flowed, and then what did you say after that?
So yeah, it really flowed, and I got an A+ on the project. And then that's sort of like, I was like, ooh, I get attention for this. This is fun. And then of course, like after I wrote that first song, I had this experience of like, ooh, I can write songs. And so then I had like extreme writer's block for the next 4 years.
Oh no. So how did you break through that eventually?
Um, Really, it was, I mean, I did write some more songs in high school, but I felt like I was always a little bit too self-conscious after
Mm,
that kind of
yeah.
first, experience of flow. And then when I went to college, I started to relax a little more, probably smoked a little pot, like
Okay.
just
Okay.
kind of like chilled out a little bit,
Right.
and was able to realize again that like what I really want to do here is tell my story. Like
Yeah.
that's really what I'm trying to do. And so when I had that realization, then I could start to tap back into the excitement of writing
Hmm.
down that truth and having it sound the way I imagined it to sound.
I love that. So just to highlight what you just said is, so it was like by connecting to your deeper desire, which was to tell your story, and connecting to your excitement around that.
Mm-hmm.
Finally kind of not, yeah, because we all get self-conscious.
Right.
You don't want to be like judging your song before it's even been born. So it's just
Yeah.
reconnecting with something deeper, like your truest
Mm-hmm.
motivation. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. That's good advice for all of us.
I still try to remember that, when I get sort of tangled up in writing, then I try to remember, wait, what do I really need to say here? Why am I doing this? Because this is a crazy thing to do. Like you
Right.
said,
Yeah.
you really have to dive deep for it. And what's the point of that? Well, the point is that there's a story here. Maybe it's my story or it's somebody else's story or it's a world story,
Yeah.
but there's something about it that I haven't heard, that I need to give a voice to.
Yeah.
And that can really break me out of get me out of my head and put
Yeah.
me back into, what I'm actually trying to do with writing songs.
Absolutely. That
Yeah.
reminds me of a song I was writing. You know how some songs you can write in a day or a week, and then there's other ones that
Mm-hmm.
kind of showed up and it's been 4 years and they're still not done. So I had a song like that where I knew it like mattered and I cared about it, but it was just not quite right. And I remember one day I'm at my piano now, but I was sitting at this piano singing the verses, singing the chorus. And I was just like, I said to myself, what am I really trying to say while I
Mm-hmm.
was playing? And I suddenly started singing something else entirely.
Wow.
And it was yeah, oh, I won't let you go even if it's to the light. But anyway, and then I was like, oh no, this is my chorus, and then I could just throw out the other chorus and or maybe not throw it out but move it to the line in the verse. But it was such a, I had to ask the question,
Yeah.
so stuck in the kind of, maybe I just need to reorder this or change
Right.
words. I was stuck, and then finally it hurt enough to be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What am I doing? And then it was like,
Yeah.
oh, this, like, okay. So
yeah, that's such a great feeling when you have a breakthrough like that feels so authentic, because that's the whole point, right?
Right. Totally. So, speaking of this songwriting and not looking at it, being too self-conscious and connecting with your why. As I understand it, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, you've been doing, collaborative songwriting is a little bit newer to me. I've been doing it more recently, but you've really made a career out of collaborative songwriting. Is that true?
It's yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay. Can you
Yes
speak
and
to
no.
that a little bit about
what
that's been like and how you can connect to your why while writing with someone else? And
sure, yeah. Most of my songwriting actually I do on my own. When I was in Girlyman, excuse me, I always started my songs myself, whether that was lyrically or musically or both. And sometimes I would just finish them on my own, and that was just what they were. And sometimes I would get to a point where I felt, especially musically, like I just needed somebody else's mind to come into this, or a fresh eye.
Yeah.
And that was usually Nate, who would come in because he had a background in composition. And so he was sometimes able to do something with modulations that I just, wouldn't have thought of, that kind of like took the song to the next level. That's the kind of collaboration that really works for me, because The kind that doesn't work for me is sitting in a room with another person and saying, well, let's try this, or no, not that. Let's try this. Because to me, then it's like you have like two different creative visions often.
Mm-hmm.
I've always found that really difficult to do that kind of collaboration. The closest to that I've ever done is sort of like, I'll work on something, I'll email it to someone else. They'll work on it for a while, email it back.
Oh, has that worked for you?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
But, again, I maybe you've experienced this too. For me, it's like every single time I write a song, I'm learning how to do it all over again.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
And so I feel that way about collaboration too, where it's like no two collaborations have been alike.
Yeah, I can really relate to the because of course I'm wondering, why it is that way. I'm feeling like if there's something I want to write about or that wants to be born through me, and then I bring it to a collaborative writing session, I'm going to be like kind of possessive about the direction.
Yeah.
So I found, when I've had to write collaboratively, and it's usually because I've been forced, like
right.
That Cayamo cruise thing, they had a retreat ahead of it and they're like, do you want to come and co-write? I'm like, yeah, but then of course terrified, right? But that worked because nobody brought something that they had already made, like a piece of something. It was like completely from scratch. And it was just like, but yeah, my favorite kind of collaborating is like I bring something that's 80% done to like my husband or Natalia.
Right.
And I'm like, make it better.
Yeah.
Tell me what I'm not seeing.
Yeah.
And what about with you and Ingrid? Is that, you're talking about the writing with Girlyman. How is it now with Mouths of Babes?
Up until now, we've really written separately. I think the reason it seems really collaborative with both these groups is because the arranging is all done collaboratively. And so arranging, it sort of takes the song to the next level, and it's really important. And it's kind of like, it can determine what a song really is just as much as the writing of it can.
Yeah.
But Ingrid and I write really differently. And so we've written all our songs separately. And actually just now we're starting, we did write one song together. We wrote a song about Robert Mueller. That was kind of fun.
I think I saw there was a video for that. I need to watch that when we jump off.
I know, that was a big nothing burger. But anyway, we wrote that one song, and now we're starting to collaborate a little bit.
Okay.
But it's really scary for me to do. I'm very private about my writing process to the point where I need to be almost in like a vault, like by myself, just making all the mistakes I need to make and having it sound like really as bad as it's going to sound while I'm writing it, and then kind of coming out with whatever it is that I develop. It's just such a weird process,
Do you feel like you don't want to let somebody in too early before it's really been what you're aiming for has come into existence?
Yeah, because how like when you start a song, you have sort of a vision for it and you have an excitement about it.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of the fear and the shutting down around songwriting for me is about, what if I can't realize that vision?
Oh.
What if like I try to do this and I veer off on some path,
and then
I get seduced by that path, and I find when I'm too far down that road to really turn back, I find, this isn't at all what I was trying to do.
Yeah. So
right.
Okay. So what's your antidote for that when you get in that spot where you're like, I'm not realizing this vision, like I'm not feeling that excitement anymore?
My antidote is to step away from it. Yeah. And forget about it. Like really forget about the song, like put it away, work on another song. And actually for me, I'm often working on like 5-10 songs at the same time, because if I'm too tunnel vision on one song, I just work it to death.
Oh yeah, I can ruin it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
Yeah. Does that
That's
make sense?
helpful. Absolutely, it makes so
Yeah.
much sense. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I struggle with when to walk away, because
Hmm.
I think, well, it's almost there. Maybe I just need to kind of double down, you know.
Hmm.
And other times I realized I just needed to like go see friends and live a little bit more life and come back
Yeah,
fresh views.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you'll be like at dinner with a friend and they'll say something and you're like, oh my God, that's the
You're
thing.
like, I'm taking that.
Yeah. But it's sort of like a guessing game a lot of the time. I think people think that there's this like one way to write a song. And for me, it's just, well, sometimes you step away, and sometimes stepping away is kind of an excuse. And what you really need to do is spend some time with it. And it's sort of like a feeling it out and trying to really listen in the moment for me. That tells me like, which of those things do I need to do?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if you feel like that and you feel frustrated with your song, for those listening, you are not alone.
Definitely not.
You are not alone. Yes. So on that note of kind of getting frustrated and making choices and feeling, is there anything lately that you feel like either inspired by or frustrated with creatively, and how you're navigating that? Anything that's kind of really fresh for you?
In terms of my process?
Yeah, in terms of any of your making, your writing, or record. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what you're up. Why don't you tell us what you're up to right now? So what are you up to?
Well, great question. Well, I was recently able to acquire a studio space. And it's just a garage behind my apartment. It's a garage, but it's a studio. Like I've tricked it out with Christmas lights, and it's super cozy in there, and I can just go back there and shut the door. And I haven't had that in years.
Oh, wow.
And it's made an enormous difference, just a huge difference. My routine, just to quickly put that out there. So for many years, what I do is I get up, I make my coffee, I meditate, and then I do a little writing. And usually not a lot of writing, usually like half an hour, maybe at most. But what I was finding that doing that in a little corner of a room that was, like a bedroom or a little corner of the living room, it just really wasn't working for me. And I just had this really persistent feeling of like, I need a space to go into to do this. And it was just an intuition. On the one hand, I was like, oh, is that an excuse? Whatever. But once I got the space and I started to go in there daily, it was like, oh, no. This is like, you make a date with your creativity. You don't like take them to like a little corner, crappy little corner of another room. You make them feel special, right?
Yeah.
You make this like muse feel like, look what I've done for you. I've this
I
beautiful
love that.
space. Like, sit down with me. Let's have some coffee. Let's take a deep breath. Let's have some space for this. Let's tell the muse you're important.
Yeah, you matter.
You matter. And I'm telling you, like, huge difference. I've been writing so much more since I did that. So I'm
so cool.
Super excited. Yeah, thanks.
That is so cool. It's such a great tip you're honoring. Like you think of like all the churches and temples and all that. Like it's like creating space to like honor, and I just love that. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Me too. I know. And I know it's not always possible for people, but I will say if you're thinking about making a space for your art, like see what you can do, because I had really thought, oh, there's no way I can do this while I'm living in this apartment. Where would I go? We just have this little 1-bedroom apartment in Berkeley. And then I just had this brain flash of, oh, there's these garages back there. I wonder if one of them's empty. And I got in touch with my landlord, and one of them was empty, and it used to be rented as an art studio. And it was just like this amazing, it's like, don't count it out. Like, think outside the box and see what you can do for yourself, because if this is important to you and you want it to be a big part of your life, you have to give it space. some kind
Yeah.
of space.
And all you had to do to begin that process was to ask.
Right.
Just,
Yeah.
and to notice there was a space, ask your land, it was like a series of simple steps.
Yeah.
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 Do you record in there?
I don't record in there because it's kind of, there's like squirrels run across the top of the garage.
Okay.
There's like people are opening other garages and tromping back there with their bikes. It's not a place to record. I wish it was.
Yeah.
But it's what I need right now, which is a place to be creative.
I love it. So that reminds me of, do you know Sam Shaver?
Yeah.
So, and her dad was a film writer. And they had a little house in, I think it was Connecticut. And then behind the house was a mini little, I guess it was a studio. It was like this cute little space, and he would do all his writing in there. And I remember thinking, I've been writing songs like for a year, and I remember thinking like, I need one of those. Like, I want one of those when I grow up. And the other thing that I want to add, just for people out there, we have 2 daughters. They're 8 and 6, and we have 3 bedrooms in our house, and and every time we move, they're like, my older daughter will be like, I need my own room, and I'm like, and I'm always like, she does need her. I don't know why she needs her. She's an artist too, so I feel like maybe she does need her own room. But anyway, I always am like, no, you 2 have to share, because mommy gets that third room. Like, this is my office/studio.
Nice.
I don't know how long I can hang on to it, but for now I'm like, the boundaries are up, because
that's great.
I feel similarly to you. It's like, and sometimes this is the only room that's clean, which is like also, break from the chaos.
Well, and I imagine with kids, it must be even more like you need your space.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, in some ways they help me be more creative, because they're like, oh, let's paint, or let's do this thing now. So that can be helpful, but it's also, they're both so creative. They want to like pull me into what they're doing. And I'm like, and then I'm like, wait, I had a plan, but I was going to make something, but it didn't happen.
Right.
Anyway. So create your space, honor your muse. Love that. Do you want to play us a song and tell us the story of how it came to be? Is there anything else to say before that?
No, I'm happy to play a song. I thought I'd maybe even bring my wife in here to sing with me.
Hey, your wife is coming. Ingrid.
Yes. You want to come sing with me?
Sure.
So this song, while she's getting herself together, this is a song that I wrote as part of the Real Women, Real Songs project that I did in 2014. That was a project that there were, I think, 22 or 23 of us. And we would write a song every week. That was kind of the assignment, was write a song every week on a prompt.
Was that Carrie Cooper? Or?
Yeah, that was Carrie Cooper.
Okay, cool.
That. Yeah. Hold on a second. Suddenly I can't hear anything. Hang on.
Is it me?
Oh no, it's that. I pulled that out. Okay. So so we had to write a song every week for the whole year. And that was, for me, that was like mind-blowingly, how am I going to do this? So of course I had to say yes to the project.
Wow.
So, some weeks were easier than others. And some weeks, as you know, like life happens and things are going on and you just feel like, how am I going to write a song this week? And some weeks, emergencies happen, like horrible things happen. And so I had this, the prompt was the word succumb. That was the prompt. And, and she had died by suicide that day. And it was so shocking and so devastating. And it was absolutely a state that I felt, I was just dealing with that. I was like, song, like, no way. But I had committed to this, and I actually felt like, oh, this is an opportunity to sing to her.
Oh.
And so I just started to sing it almost like it was a letter to my friend.
Oh.
And she had had such a hard life. Like, her life was really hard. And so even though death was a really tragic thing that had happened to her, it wasn't the only tragic thing.
Yeah.
So I sort of had this like wish for her that somehow she was, at peace.
Yeah.
So this is the song that came out of that. Okay, so this is called Brighter in the Dark. Oh, my friend, was it quiet at the end? Was your voice sore from trying? Were your bones bent from crying? 'Cause I know how the dark makes its way into your heart and whispers in your ear that it's better over here. Oh, your heart was an aching open part, growing outside with the weeds, like a mouth you could not feed. And every waking day was another debt to pay, from an empty penny jar on the back seat of a car. Now I guess you know what it's like to lead yourself back home, what it's like to face it all alone. Now you're with the moon and with the stars. So tell me, is it brighter in the dark? Oh, this world is an empty-handed girl with a mouth too full of words and a sky too full of birds, and the silent strings on her lonesome violin will always feel her hands, though the years had other plans. And now I guess you see what it's like to set your body free, what it's like to have a place to be. And now you're in the night sky with the stars. So tell me, is it brighter in the dark? Tell me, is it brighter in the dark? Tell me, is it brighter in the dark?
Thank you so much. That was so beautiful.
Thanks, Anne.
I love that. Thank you, Ingrid. Yeah. Oh, that was so, so nice. Thank you for playing that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those things that happened in kind of a magical way. So.
Yeah. So beautiful. What a great tribute to your friend.
Thanks, Anne.
Something I thought of. I kind of want to read this out loud.
Sure.
Just because I read it and it's sort of like, it made me feel really good. It's something that you wrote on your blog. And I just thought maybe I'd ask you to respond to it in the moment.
Sure.
In this moment. So you wrote a whole post, but at the end you said, every year brings a little more acceptance, a little more peace with change. I'm still putting on my workout clothes and setting my timers and putting pen to paper each day, trying to make ultimate sense out of it all. But truthfully, isn't this just what it is? When are all life's questions ever answered? When are you ever your ideal weight? with your ideal job, partner, home, money, and accolades, assured forever that you're making a positive, unique contribution to the world? When do the people who hurt you come back and apologize? When do all the no's turn into yeses? Mm-hmm. When do you get to be besties with Oprah and have a movie made about your life? Answer, only if you're Elizabeth Gilbert and you wrote Eat, Pray, Love. There is only now in all its messy, imperfect perfection. So maybe those of us with Virgo in our charts can stop trying so damn hard all the time. Yes? Life appears to be a process of continually humbling yourself and realizing that your own perfect comfort and success were never the point. The cool part is we get to be a part of something so much bigger, a community, a world. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. How did you come to write that?
I wrote that a while ago, so it's hard to know. It's hard to remember exactly where I was in that moment, but I think that that's a place that I'm often in where it's like we're all trying so hard, right?
Yeah.
We all want our lives to matter. We all want our work to matter. We're trying to better ourselves. And sometimes it just hits me that sort of the narrative that we're given for this arc that your life is supposed to follow is not the point at all. The point is just your life as you're living it right now.
Yeah.
And it's like we all kind of know that in theory, but I think there are just these moments when it really sinks in and it's like, great.
Yeah. I mean, I just love that because like you said, we all know that in theory, but there's a certain way that you can put something like the examples you used that it just really, it landed me in the present moment reading that and being like, this is the point. Just like right now doing this or whatever I'm going to do next, going to get my kids at school. Like this is life, so.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to thank you.
Yeah.
It's not just how did the song come to be. It's like,
right.
How did the blog come to be? I'm digging it. Yeah. All right. Cool. Thanks so much for joining us. If you know someone who would enjoy or benefit from this podcast, please share it with them. Thanks so much. Much love.